How about them Bucks? I'm so excited to be able to start today's stream by talking about the Milwaukee Bucks. How cool was that? And how cool for them to win it in 6, to fulfill that prophecy, and to do so at home in front of these great fans. Ah, man. I bet you're excited. Some Milwaukeeans are still partying and setting off fireworks or something somewhere. So just be safe and everybody enjoy this victory. The state and the city, the county, all of you deserve it. So that's cool. I think Milwaukee's entering a bit of a renaissance. So it's exciting to see that as part of it. But you're not here to listen to me talk about the Bucks, especially if you're not a Bucks fan. You should be if you're in Wisconsin. Come on now. But it is Agriculture Month. We are still talking about agriculture. And today we have a very, very special guest, the Secretary of the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. That's a big department. Think about it. Department of Agriculture, Department of Trade, Department of Consumer Protection. That could be 3 departments. There's a lot of stuff that falls under the purview of DATCP, I think they call it, Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. And so Randy Romanski is the secretary of that department. And how this aligns with Agriculture Month, obviously being a Department of Agriculture, but kind of continuing what we were talking about last week with careers in farming and agriculture and overall agribusiness for veterans. There's a lot of opportunity in the Department of Agriculture, inside and out, and they do a lot to facilitate opportunities, careers, fulfilling lucrative careers, especially for vets and military family members in agriculture, in trade, heck, in their own department. So this is going to be really interesting. There are a ton of government, state government agencies and departments out there. It's easy to see all of it, and if you don't work for the state, you may not know one department from another and what they do. But Secretary Romanski leads a very important department that has a very specific, very important role in the state of Wisconsin that you're all going to want to stay tuned, hear about. So I'm going to stop talking because you didn't come here to listen to me gab. We're going to get going right after this. I'm a big fan of that song. I'm not sure if we'll ever change it. I was thinking about maybe for season 2 of Office Hours changing it up a little bit, but no, I think we'll just keep that on in perpetuity. It's a good pump up song. Gives me visions of Giannis dropping 50 in game 6 of the final. I'm sorry, I got distracted again. I was just very excited about that. Anyways, enough about the Bucks. Secretary Romanski, sir, how are you?
I am very good, Adam, and I too am excited about the Bucks game last night. I'm a little hoarse just because I was yelling in the room that I was in, not even amongst a group of people, but very exciting. And Adam, I'm glad to be joining you and your viewers today to talk a little bit about agriculture. I'm excited about your focus on agriculture.
We're excited too. Agriculture Month is turning out to so far provide like a lot of really good information, about opportunities. And I think the whole agriculture world, for people that grew up outside of it, maybe outside of farming, it seems foreign and other or exclusive. Like, I didn't grow up in farming, I can't work in agriculture, which is clearly not true. Why don't you, before we get into that, overarchingly, the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection sounds like there's a lot that you cover. Can you just give us an overview of that?
Yeah, we do. It's a big responsibility, but actually we do it pretty efficiently. We're not a really big agency comparatively. We have 600 or so employees. compared to, I think DOT's got about 3,000 and DNR's got about 2,500. So even though we have this broad responsibility, we've got a relatively small staff, and I can break it down relatively quickly. I do something, generally speaking, that we talk about is DATCP 101, which is a quick snapshot of what our agency does.
Excellent.
And in some ways, we look at the services we provide at the Department of Ag, Trade, and Consumer Protection is we impact or touch every person's life every day in the state of Wisconsin. We have 6 divisions. Here's how we'll break it down. Our largest division is the Division of Food and Recreational Safety. A lot of meat meat inspectors, sanitarians, food inspectors. This is the team that works to make sure the products you buy and the places you go are safe. And that's our biggest part of the agency. Our next largest is Trade and Consumer Protection. Now, this is the division that helps ensure a fair marketplace, helps enforce Wisconsin's consumer protection laws, educates consumers, and verifies the accuracy of scales and prices across the state. We want to make sure that when you pay for a gallon of gas or a pound of lunch meat at the deli counter, you get what you pay for. DATCP's other 4 divisions deal really a little more closely when you think about the world of agriculture. So those first 2 divisions are not what a lot of people would consider hard agriculture. It's food and recreational safety, it's trade and consumer protection. Those 2 divisions make up a little over half of our agency. So we haven't even dipped our toe into the waters of, what most people would think of would be, production agriculture. So we have 4 other divisions that deal a little more closely with the world of agriculture. One of them is Division of Ag Development. They support Wisconsin farmers and promote Wisconsin agriculture. If you've heard of the Farm Center or Allison Dairyland or something special in Wisconsin, that's where those programs are.
Oh,
Division of Animal.
Okay.
Yep. Division of Animal Health monitors the movement of domestic animals and livestock, and they are emergency responders. They respond to animal disease outbreaks and other emergencies. So that's an emergency response component, but there's also the heavy prevention component of that. We want to prevent animal disease before it gets here. Our Division of Ag Resource Management works with counties, farmers, agribusinesses to make sure that they are making the best use of Wisconsin's land and water resources. So a lot of field staff, they're people who are out in the field working with farmers. And then our last division is our Division of Management Services, and that's operations. IT, we have 3 labs associated with our agency. So lab testing, budget, and our emergency response coordinator for the agency is included in DMS as well. So that's a quick fly through of the kinds of services our agency provides. And we believe we touch everybody's life some way, in some way, shape, or form with the services we provide.
Wow, that is incredible. That is a huge scope. The breadth of things that fall underneath the jurisdiction of your department. It's incredible, and it does sound like every single person is touched or protected or secured in some way by the work this department does every single day. The food we eat, the places we go, safety, recreation, health, all that's incredible. Before I go on to the next question, I just want to say for anybody that's watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitch, feel free to throw questions, comments. You want to say go Bucks in the comment section, that's fine. Just throw something in the comments. If you have questions for Secretary Romanski, now's the time. Because we will field your questions live on the air. That's what Office Hours Live is for. So don't be bashful. I want to hear from you. And obviously, whomever comments first from whichever platform gets the first comment award, which is a badge of honor. You want to have the first comment award, so you should throw it out there. But Secretary, so as we started to kind of go into at the beginning, opportunities in agriculture, as we were talking about before the show, first off, there are a ton of opportunities in agriculture. And second off, a lot of those opportunities are not what you would traditionally believe to be agricultural. So there's a ton of opportunities and a ton of opportunities beyond just farming, even though there are opportunities there. Is that a common misconception that you're constantly battling in your external communications to get the word out about? And what are those other opportunities in agriculture? What does that cover?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, and we do try to share as much information as possible. So, in agriculture in Wisconsin, agriculture is a $104.8 billion industry. 1 in 9 people working in the state of Wisconsin right now is in a job related to agriculture. Now, that's not just farming, as you indicated. That's a whole variety of ways that could happen. So we've got almost 65,000 farms. But again, production agriculture is not necessarily all we're talking about there. Clearly it's huge. But food processing is an activity that contributes about $82.7 billion to industrial sales in the state of Wisconsin. So, if we break that down, 1 in 9 people, that's a little over 400,000 jobs in the state of Wisconsin. On-farm production contributes 154,000 of those jobs, roughly, and processing is another 282,000 jobs. So, while we talk about production agriculture, harvesting, planting and harvesting crops, tending livestock, milking cows, whatever the case might be, clearly that's an economic driver, but there are so many other jobs in other parts of the industry that we just want to make sure that people are aware of and they know the connection to agriculture. So here's the example. A commodity is produced, the commodity needs to get from farm to market. There could be custom applicator services through a co-op. They need to transport that commodity off farm to get it to the marketplace. It could be processed someplace here in Wisconsin. Then it's the shipping, logistics, marketing. Clearly there are there's a wide variety of experts. They have to have HR staff and accountants and all different approaches to the office space that goes along with production. So when you think about that 1 in 9 people relating to having a job related to agriculture, it speaks to the breadth of agriculture in Wisconsin. And that, the unique thing about it is it's not just, a rural location in some part of the state. Agriculture, food production, processing, logistics, it's happening all over the state of Wisconsin, from Mellon, Wisconsin and far north all the way down to Milwaukee and southeast Wisconsin. There's agriculture and food processing going on all over our state.
I haven't heard of Mellon, Wisconsin.
Mellon. So I've got my map of Wisconsin here, and Mellon, Wisconsin, is right up here in the Ashland Superior area.
Holy cow! I learned something today.
Yeah.
So careers and opportunities in agriculture. It's not just planting crops and milking cows in a rural area on a farm. I mean, there are people up and down the chain, left and right, north and south, in every direction. Supply chain, project management, human resources, communications, you name it. There are a ton of opportunities there. And as we were chatting about before the show, veterans overarchingly, and I have to put this caveat on, veterans are not a monolith. We're not all the same. However, it is common for veterans to have a higher likelihood of success and fulfillment in certain career fields or industries. And all of the aforementioned industries in agriculture are no exception. Can you talk a little bit about how those puzzle pieces just fit between agriculture and veterans and military family members?
I appreciate that question. Yes. So here's the way we look at it. I mean, veterans are extremely valuable to our state's community, workforce, and economy. And I'm going to say that as DATCP secretary and an employer. But I'm also going to say this as somebody who promotes and advocates and is a resource to the agriculture industry. When you think about it, the determination, skill, commitment of veterans are some of the greatest assets we have as a state. And all those traits make veterans a great fit for a career in agriculture. So if you think about how some of those traits break down, I mean, you're looking for somebody who has good decision making skills, works hard, is able to take responsibility, to train leaders.
Trainable, doesn't require direct supervision generally, and
Yeah, I mean, and they understand health and safety issues. So I mean, the, that profile I think is strong no matter what industry you're talking about. But again, I'm going to speak somewhat selfishly here. And think about what the world of agriculture and what our agency needs, and all those skills dovetail nicely into the kinds of activities that our agency provides and the agriculture industry needs in their workforce.
I hadn't considered that, and I think that's an excellent point. Any military member will tell you that a lot of their training, especially the computer-based training modules that take place just that you have to do every 3-6 months to a year throughout your tenure in the military, it's almost like 80% of it, and that's not an accurate figure, it just felt that way, I guess, but 80% of it was about health and safety and risk management.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would think that being obviously health and safety and risk management and compliance as well is another huge part of training for military members, because obviously you have policies and procedures that must be complied with to the letter. So yeah, I would think that all of those things would make the average vet very well suited for a career in agriculture. So what if somebody what if somebody watching says, sign me up? I'm interested in learning more about agriculture and potentially having a career, or I need a change, and I'm thinking about doing a career shift. I'd love to explore more. How would somebody reach out to you or one of your departments, or find out some of the programs or resources that you have that bridge the gap between them and their potential future career?
Well, the best place to go is a place called Whisk Jobs. That's the state job link, and they're gonna show the gamut of jobs that are out there. What I'll do, again, this is me as head of an agency and recruiter, as it were, for the kinds of things we do. The things that you just talked about, Adam, are it kind of runs through the core of all the programming that we do, that the risk assessment and compliance issues. If we have a food inspector, meat inspector out there, there are guidelines that we have to enforce, and the agents in the industry wants to comply with. It's one of those things when the industry is practicing safe methods, when our staff is doing proper inspection, everybody gets what they want, which is the consumer gets a healthy, safe product, or a healthy, safe experience. If we're talking about being at an inspected business like a hotel, restaurant, water park, all of which we inspect. Right. So that attention to detail, that awareness of the importance of compliance issues are extremely valuable in our workforce. Now, I was speaking specifically about food and recreational safety, but we, like I mentioned before, we also have inspectors and investigators for things like our consumer protection functions. Knowing what the laws are, knowing what we can help people is such a valuable part of what our agency provides, that again, I think, goal oriented, trained leaders who can work independently are immediate pluses for our agency. So we've got a little over 600 employees, and I think we are currently, I think about 53 of our staff members, or about 9% are veterans. There are so many
Mm.
places where we find our veterans working in our agency, and we believe we're a better agency because of it.
So here's I think a question. You probably heard this a lot, but given that health, safety, compliance, regulatory measures, risk management, all of those things are central and core to what your department does. How crazy has your world been over the last 18 months in responding to the pandemic? Did that change your world at all and how you were doing your job, boots on the ground, or was it kind of just more continuing on that path?
It did and it didn't, and I'll explain what I'm saying with that. So it did change because obviously once the pandemic hit, a lot of things changed relatively quickly. Obviously, there were the human health and human aspects of it. COVID-19 touched all of us in some way, shape, or form. And so what we needed to do as an agency was pivot, become more nimble, and make sure that we were still providing the services that we needed to provide, but maybe find them find a little different way to provide it. So in some of those cases where we have a regulatory role, if there were some issues with, not being able to be on site or because of the impacts of COVID-19, in some cases we switched to virtual inspections. We did business wellness checks where, we would be calling our regulated entities and saying, how are you doing through the pandemic? We can't get out there and inspect you now, but what are you seeing? And of course, many of our inspected entities were affected in a way that, they were operating differently, and some were shut down. But one of our responsibilities, we thought, during the pandemic was doing that kind of wellness check with businesses. Now, how it didn't change a whole lot, Adam, is that agriculture is essential. I mean, we all need
Right.
to eat. The cows need to get milked. The crops need to be planted and harvested. They need to get to market. They need to go through the retail aspect of it. And so everything from the farmer who's planting those crops to the person who's stocking the shelves in a grocery store, they were still working, which meant that our staff was still working in an essential capacity as well. Governor Evers identified early on that agriculture and the gamut of what is agricultural is essential and should continue. So we needed to pivot. But here's the thing: with our meat inspectors, if a processing plant was operating, we have to be there. So our inspectors were on site, and they were working right alongside the processing industry. Same thing for like the dairy processing and dairy sealers that we have on staff. So they were out there still doing their inspections, still carrying on during the course of the pandemic.
Well, and I feel like I have 100 questions that I want to ask you, but we do the show today does have a hard stop at noon, so I want to make sure that I ask a good one for this last question as we're rounding third, making our way on home. What did you hear from your employees who were boots on the ground with your constituents, with the restaurant owners, with the farmers? What were their biggest headaches or speed bumps throughout the span of the pandemic? Things that bothered them, or things that made their lives difficult that maybe the average person sitting at home wouldn't think about?
Well, that's a great question. The thing about our staff that was not out in the field, how we pivoted is, so restaurants were mostly closed down during the pandemic. We weren't doing as many face-to-face inspections, and so those folks pivoted to internal functions. And I mentioned we were doing the wellness checks, and where we could, we would do virtual compliance. That's not optimal, And I think both sides would say that, but it's what they had to do. So I think you have that kind of resolution that this is not the best way to do it. We need to do a lot of these things in person, but we're going to get by this way. Some of them volunteered to help other state agencies who had
Okay.
need. So we had staff that that volunteered to work with DHS or DWD. Again, that willingness to accomplish the mission of providing services to people who need them. So if we had instances where somebody's job was affected by, a decrease in the number of compliance checks they needed to do, we had them helping others. But in the case of our staff that was out in the field, and we had a pretty substantial number of staff that were deemed essential, were working at their jobs, whether it was at the lab, whether it was on site doing essential services in our building, or inspectors who are out in the field. A lot of them just continued on conducting their work. We needed to make sure we had proper PPE for them to get them out in the field so that we were keeping them safe while they were keeping others safe. But again, so much of what the industry saw and so much what our agency saw was kind of essential services, and did the best we could to carry on.
You betcha. Well, I appreciate everything you do, Secretary. It's been really enlightening chatting with you, and we'll have to do it again sometime. I'll go ahead and share a link to Secretary Romanski wrote a guest blog article for our blog a couple months ago that got a fair amount of traction, talking a little bit more about the department and what it did and how, and how veterans were very well suited for careers in agriculture and agribusiness and whatnot. So I'll be sure to share that link, and everybody check it out. In the meantime, be sure to follow us across all channels, all networks. And Secretary, is there anything that you want to close up with? Any parting thoughts and wisdom?
I just would close by saying thank you very much for allowing us to join you today. We really appreciate the opportunity, and appreciate the fact that we were able to share that op-ed recently. I mean, we talk often about connecting the dots, and a lot of what we're talking about when we're connecting the dots is we want to make sure that people understand the world of agriculture, understand the opportunity in the world of agriculture. There are a lot of jobs in the industry across a wide span of parts of the industry. And so being able to share this information with you and your viewers and listeners today has been just a great opportunity for us.
Right on. Well, thank you very much, sir. I'll ask you to hang on the line for just 1 minute here while I close up. And it was really informational. A lot of great opportunities there. Also, I have scrolling across the bottom the Department of Agriculture, Trade and Consumer Protection website that has just an insane amount of information, from, resources to current farmers or people working in agriculture, to animal movement, to, agricultural development programs and services. I mean, it's expansive. So check it out. If you've ever thought like, maybe I'd like to, serve the community through agriculture, there's a million ways to go about it, as we just learned about today. Well, appreciate y'all tuning in. See you same time, same place next week, Wednesday, 11:30 Central on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch. Go Bucks.